I wanted to discuss with you today briefly a piece of news that I think is promising in the field of COVID-19 and vaccines. Last month, an Australian biotech company announced that they have developed a new COVID-19 vaccine technology based on some work they have done before in treating certain forms of advanced cancer through immunotherapy. They have a technology that uses some bacterial vectors. They call that EnGeneIC Dream Vector, EDV. And that technology, apparently, that platform allows for the delivery of the active agent for treatment, say for metastatic pancreatic cancer, straight into where the tumor is. And so it's highly targeted, and therefore it's much less toxic than conventional chemotherapy. But what they have also done is they realize that this platform, this technology, is amenable to creation of a vaccine-like product against SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19. Now, before I give you some of the details that they have announced, I have to make something very clear, and that is, I'm not an investor in that company. I'm not sponsored by them. I don't have any financial or material incentive to present this information to you. This is purely information that I have come across, and I thought it would be interesting enough to be shared on this channel, where we discuss issues of health, prevention, and COVID-19. So that's where that comes from. And again, I'm not offering personalized medical advice here. We're just discussing news and topics importance that are amenable to discuss and to clarify. Anyways, let's get into it. And this news release basically summarizes what this product is supposed to do. What they are saying is that they have this EDV technology, the bacterial dream vector, that is able to target multiple SARS-CoV-2 virus strains, including the Delta variant, with an efficacy that exceeds 95%. So it seems to stay active regardless of the virus variant that we have, which would be a huge news if it turns out to be really the case. And so far, I have no reason to doubt that. The way that works, they say their product has 3 molecules. One is something that generates the spike protein when it's all mixed up and injected into the patient. The second one is a molecule that they say activates the immune response. And the third molecule, interestingly enough, apparently makes it so that the antibodies that the immune system creates against that spike protein that they put in the vaccine are high affinity, very, very targeted against that spike protein in such a way that they act as Velcro. Once they latch onto it, you cannot dislodge them off of it. So they are neutralizing in that way, and they never come off. And this is where they claim their high efficacy, even against variants like Delta, over 90%, stems from that high affinity. The other part of this that I imagine, I haven't seen it discussed in detail, but I imagine if they can generate the spike protein on the fly, so to speak, as they produce it in that EDV platform, it will be very easy for them to upgrade the structure of the protein to reflect variants, or potentially even to have multiple variants. They don't go into that detail on their website. I checked it, so far that's all I know. A couple of other major significant potential advantages of this vaccine. One, it's not requiring refrigeration. It can be stored at room temperature. Apparently it comes in a powder, and you just store it appropriately at room temperature. So transportation issues, distribution issues would be immensely eased if we don't have to use refrigeration, especially really, really low temperature refrigeration, which Pfizer vaccine and even Moderna to some extent require currently. The other advantage apparently is that the formula is very simple. Other than these 3 molecules, they don't list it. In fact, they even say it doesn't have a whole lot of preservatives or graphene. There's no graphene in Pfizer either, but some people worry about that for some reason. In any case, it's a very clean formula, simple, and thus the expectation is that the potential interference with other things and side effects and reactions would be a lot less significant. A few caveats here, a few reasons to stay cautious. On one hand, I'm encouraged because, you see this news all over the place in health in particular. There's this guy on the YouTube that promises that he's on the verge of discovering the secret of longevity, and he's selling his products or his book on the hopes of people that he elicits through those presentations, and he's quite an elaborate guy, and maybe there is something there. But I think we have to wait with these things before they actually prove in the real world. Every time you hear about this and that breakthrough, and the researchers, understandably so, perhaps motivated by financial reasons, like I just said with that longevity guy in some cases, they come forward and they jump the gun too soon and say, oh, within 10 years, within 5 years, we're going to, next year we're going to do this and that. And then that time passes and you hear nothing from it. This thing, I think, is different in the sense that they are already undergoing, both in Australia, and my understanding is they are starting one here in the US, phase 1 clinical trials. That is, they are actually giving this thing to real people. Another thing that I failed to mention earlier is initially they seem to target this product to people who are less likely to respond to conventional or existing COVID-19 vaccine, people with immunosuppression, people with cancer, people who take immunosuppressive medications, people with multiple comorbidities, the elderly, those who failed this vaccine or who have a contraindication to take them for some reason. They would be great candidates to have something like this that would hopefully help them stay safe from COVID. A few other reasons of staying cautious. They mentioned these 3 molecules. The first one they detailed that is the spike protein. The other 2, the one that stimulates the immune system, the other one that makes the immune system be more focused, more targeted, I haven't found yet what exactly is that they are. And so we need to find that out, and also we need to see in these clinical trials, they have to go through phase 1, 2, and 3 to assess for efficacy and also, very importantly, for safety before we feel like, okay, this is something we could give to people, just like the other vaccines went through. And so assuming and hoping that this plays out in the positive way and we don't see any catastrophic side effects in these clinical trials, there is hope there that we will have another agent that, again, has these distinct advantages of being highly effective even against variants, not needing refrigeration, and at least in an initial phase, and perhaps as a booster down the road for those who are already vaccinated and don't want to have to keep vaccinating themselves every year or wherever. It would be a nice alternative to use, again, if it's safe, to combat this virus. And in this context of this discussion, I want to mention something, and that is I want to plan for tomorrow, hopefully, if I have time, to bring back a discussion I had maybe a couple of weeks ago in a video where I discussed concerns that some of you had about potential side effects from the COVID-19 vaccines that are on the market now, specifically the mRNA one, the Pfizer's, BioNTech, and the Moderna. A lot of people have seen reports about the virus graphs showing so many deaths after the first dose or after vaccination. A whole lot of you also posted comments up to even yesterday. I've seen somebody posting a comment to the effect of either I personally had the shot and 2 weeks later or 3 days later or whatever, shortly afterwards, I experienced this health outcome that is negative, whether I developed some condition or I know somebody who died 3 days after the vaccine. And so I wanted to address this issue in the next video. How do we tease out what is really a side effect from the vaccine versus an event that would have happened regardless? We know that people die all the time. So when you do a mass vaccination with millions of people, especially early on in the vaccination campaign, and even now with a booster shot being given to a large number of people in a short period of time, it's understandable that we would see some of these events happen anyways, but yet we had the vaccine having been given before. So my challenge, the challenge I want to tackle, and I want to think about if you want to be part of that discussion, is this. How do we tease out what belongs to the vaccine as a side effect, which we should be alert and aware that it could happen, versus what would have happened anyways? Till then, I want you to stay healthy and stay wise, my friend.